Hello, welcome. This is another special episode of Transcendent Leader. This is a masterclass where we're going to be going deep into the cutting edge of business and leadership and what it really means to be more than just a leader in today's world, but a transcendent leader. My name is Andrea Albright, and I am here today with the amazing creator and visionary of this mission and this message, Satyen Raja. Welcome, Satyen.
Thanks again, Andrea. Wonderful to be here with you.
And we also have a very special guest. Now, this guest has decades of business experience in multiple industries. He has a real genius for seeing how to take any business model and make it even better, make it grow, make it scale with as little effort and more efficiency. And you're going to get so much from this interview today. We are so excited to have you. Hi, Yuen. Welcome to
Hello.
Transcendent Leader.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And I guess I'll say your full name. So you're Yuen Young, and you have quite a bit of business experience and business background. Now, I know you're very humble, and it's not fun for you to really brag about yourself, but could you just tell the viewer who's watching now just some of the amazing experiences you've had and success in business?
Sure, yeah. So humble bragging, I guess, is okay. My name is Yuen. I've been an entrepreneur since a very young age. Started business early on. I'm trying to remember how old I am now, but I think I've been in business now for about 25 years total. And in that 25 years, I've built a wealth management practice. I've started a board game. I've done a sushi franchise, and then most recently now in real estate. So just 25 years of a hodgepodge of a lot of entrepreneurial stuff.
Well, and you can't forget that you were on a game show called Shark Tank, right?
So I was on Shark Tank and got one of the highest awards ever, even to date, for How Do You Roll? And that was $1 million from Mr. Wonderful.
That's amazing. So when we're talking about business experience, really, Yuen, you've seen it all, from running businesses to managing businesses and to even getting Mr. Wonderful to invest in your business. That's really quite a diverse background you have. So is it fair to say that you love business?
I have pitched a lot of businesses and run a lot of businesses, and it's pretty much the only thing I know.
Well, we're so excited to have you, and I would love to bring Satyen into this conversation. Isn't it extraordinary that Yuen has had so much of a diverse background in business?
Well, when I first met Yuen through our mutual friend Monty, I was quite impressed by not only your vast range and acumen of different businesses that you've experienced, but also the precision of your clarity regarding how you run things. I really admire your Zen approach, the fact that you don't seem to get too riled up. You're able to keep your centeredness in the midst of any chaos that arises. You're able to plan strategic intentions in a very clear way and consolidate your team, and your team loves you. This is what I've seen directly. Your team is very loyal to you. They naturally are loyal to you. You don't run things by an iron hand. There's a type of sweetness, an invitation, and a clarity that you evoke with your teams, which has them galvanize around your vision and your mission and have them execute in a way that's very powerful, that's effective. So I want to raise my hat to you. All the experience that you've had has shown up in your exemplary leadership of your teams. Yes, absolutely.
Well, and we have so many different ways where we can take this conversation about business. And really, I would love to hear about how you have changed your approach to business since you've learned about this concept of being a transcendent leader. What does that mean to you, and how has it changed how you've approached business?
Well, I think there, even though I had a lot of experience when it came to business and working through, you know, I have a formula in my head, right? When it comes to how I do business and how I put it together. And through that process, what I've learned though, is that even though after 20 something years of being able to do that, working and training with Satya gave me a different perspective that allowed me to even grow even faster. So the way I would put it is that I think historically the way I did it was with this kind of muscle and push and pull, whereas Satyan has really turned my thought process around to ebb and flow. And so the way I think about it is that I have been able to open up a lot more as a person so that I don't try to fight the universe. I rather let the universe come to me. And through the last couple of years of working with Satyan, it's amazing how less effort it actually takes as opposed to more effort. I used to just work myself to the ground to try to get there, but now I feel like I have a lot less of that anxiety, and I'm able to just let it be and let it go. And by doing that, actually I become even more effective as a leader, which is it's almost counterintuitive, but yet it works.
Yes, it's interesting because I think a lot of people who have achieved success with this push pull paradigm, and I love that that even that name, push pull to ebb and flow. It's just a completely different way of doing business. And Satyan, I'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
You know, struggle is effort that's laced with negative emotion. To be able to run our organizations, to be able to be exemplary leaders, we have to have effort. You cannot have any success, any growth in an organization, in yourself as an individual, even in your families, unless you're willing to put in extra effort, raising your standards, raising your impeccability, having higher vision, greater goals. All this we all know about as leaders. Yet the traditional approach, and most of this comes from our conditioning, our programming. Yuen and I both share, we come from Asian immigrant families and backgrounds where hard work, 7 days a week, restaurant life, all these things is we're accustomed to it. We're happy to put in the hours, and we're happy to put in all that intense energy. The challenge is the emotional struggle also is there. And we have deep imprints in our psychology regarding struggle, that struggle is noble. I must struggle to attain my highest goals. I must have some bad, not successes, but failures. I must have a string of failures before I really learn what it means to be successful. These are outdated paradigms, I feel. Yes, we can learn from the past. Yes, we can learn from struggle, but struggle is our excess emotion when we get too riled up, when we put too much importance on things, when we have to make something happen now, today, yesterday, and we strive and we push. That adds a lot of excessive emotional intensity to the experience, and that backfires. It always backfires in our health, in our peace of mind. How we communicate to our teams tend to have more tension, more stress involved. We tend to have more charge that we inflict on our teams when we have that internal struggle. So one of the principles of transcendent leadership is learning to let go. Well, first of all, finding out where our internal struggle patterns are that we've adopted or we've absorbed from the past, learning to feel and see those struggle patterns and start to recognize, I don't need this anymore. I can achieve success with effort, but I don't need to add in all this emotional turmoil. That's a process, that's a journey of cleansing, clearing, awakening, and transmuting the struggle energetic into flow and ebb, as we just shared.
It's so beautiful, so powerful. And I want to invite anyone who's joining us live. It's great to see you, great to have you part of this conversation. And I want to also invite you to ask a question. If you have a comment or a question for Satyen or Yuen at any point during this interview, go ahead and feel free to type it into the chat box, and I'll make sure that we save time to get your questions answered. Now, Yuen, what do you think is the biggest shift that you made as a business person to go from that struggle and that push-pull mentality to the ebb and the flow, to use your words exactly? And what could a viewer who's watching today, what could they do as an action step or a takeaway in their life, in their business, in their mentality or mindset? What would you say would be the biggest shift someone could make to go from that struggle paradigm to the ebb and flow?
I think the biggest opportunity is to change the way you're thinking about the whole process itself, right? So I equate what I used to do streaming upstream up against the river. And in reality, it's better to go downstream with the river. And that mindset was exactly what Satyen just said, was that mindset was that, but that's the way you're supposed to get there. You're supposed to swim upstream to get there, which in reality actually isn't true. That was just something that was built into my own head. And what I've learned from Satyen is that, that is not the way you have to think about it. There are other alternatives. And by just changing that thought process of, you know what, sometimes when you're fighting really hard and you're in the struggle, you start realizing that maybe you don't need to be in the struggle, right? And the struggle still exists, but it doesn't have, it exists over here. You can change your positioning to over here to where there isn't the struggle. And by just that little simple thought process has allowed me to actually get people into alignment, get money into alignment, get our business into alignment so much faster, because now everyone's going downstream together, as opposed to people fighting upstream saying, well, maybe this is me and this is the part that I have to do and this is the part I have to do. And I say, no, actually, let's all just go with it and let's see what happens and see what comes of it, right? And that letting go piece is I will tell you, the hardest thing to do as a leader. Because as a leader, you think you can control every single aspect of everything that you do. And the reality is you don't. You're only creating the environment for it to have the opportunity or the possibility of that success. And the harder you fight it, the harder you put it together. So it's actually easier now to actually put all those pieces together and let people ebb and flow and not try to control them, right? And let business, those that choose to do business with us without trying to control them, and let them go with us. And that flow is what's actually what I'm talking about that makes it so much easier.
Wow, that's so beautiful and powerful. And can we put some numbers behind this just to show how effective you are at this? I mean, when you're speaking about humans and team, how many people are you leading? And when you're talking about business deals, what's the revenue? What's the numbers that you are bringing in and what you are creating? Because I think the viewer is going to see that you're so humble and calm about this, but you're really creating mass changes on the planet.
Well, to give some perspective, when I did my first couple of businesses, it was about 3 or 4 people, making $1 million, $2 million a year, not bad. Then I got into my next few businesses, and now it's 20, 30, 40 people, and doing hundreds, not hundreds, but multiple millions of dollars of business. To today, we've got hundreds of people doing multiple millions of dollars of business, right? And that flow that we were just talking about, we have gone from being able to do 1, 2 deals to now doing 5, 10 deals all at one time. And yes, there's still the challenges of the human resource, the cash resources, the time it takes to do that. But by having this thought process of being able to go with the flow has allowed us actually to be able to take on more business and be able to get through that process. So going from, $1 million to today, literally, we just did a $163 million project. That's a big transition, right? That's a big movement. 3-4 employees to almost 200 employees, right? That's the transition that quantifiably is there.
Amazing. And that's exactly what I wanted you to draw out, because really this works on every level, doesn't it, Satyen?
It does, on every level. What I think something interesting that I'd like to go into here is the work we've been doing with the company culture and the company dynamics, the team dynamics. When Yuen and his colleague Monty brought me on into their organization, Casora Group, I wanted to see how can I help this organization really make a 10x leap at the same time, to do it in the way that's going to create the least amount of tension, in a way that's going to create the highest amount of flow. And that's a process, because when I come into an organization, we don't know what's going on. All right. I can't tell. So I look from above. And the first thing that I'm looking for is, what are the psychological interference patterns that are happening in an organization? We know all the structural patterns. We can dial in what the communication flows are and all of that at a technical level. But at a human level, it's humans doing this. And so if the humans are happy, if we as not human resources, but human beings are happy and joyful and interconnected and finding affinity, camaraderie with our teammates, then the whole company will thrive. When there's interference patterns, tensions, obstacles, cross intentions, counter intentions, vying for each other's place in the company, ego, when all of this enters the space, which is there in every company, because we don't just bring our clarity, we also bring all the nuisance and all our desires to be recognized, all our desires to be seen as somebody. We have our psychological aspects that are unlived, that are perhaps not enlightened, we bring into the organization too. And that affects everything directly. So when I came into this organization, one of the first thing I noticed, and this is universal in all organizations, is there's this natural desire within all of us to be seen as someone with reputation, to be seen as someone who has significance for the company. And if we're going to go stronger in a company, if we're going to go up the corporate ladder, we're going to go up the ladder of success and the ladder of position, then I must prove to my team, I must prove to the organization, to my leaders, that I have significance, that I have a reputation, and I've built that. Now, the problem with building personal reputation and significance is that this is where we get the idea of, oh, that person is stepping over this person. They don't care about everyone else. They only care about their own success. And we hear about this egoic rise in companies that comes from me, I'm the great one, but that does not make for an incredible, powerful, expansive 10x level of team. It might make for some superstars, but to have the whole team become a superstar performing team, we need to shift from, hey, what can I do to raise my own significance, my own reputation, to, Yen, how can I raise your reputation? How can I raise your significance? So one of the foundational practices that we did in Yen's organization is we took all the executive teams and we had them really share with each other directly. My friend, a way you raise my reputation and significance is, and we had them express it. When you call me back on time, when you send the reports when you said you will, when you follow up with this email that I need this information at the right time, it helps me complete my task so that I can carry on and forward the information to the people that I need to. But you lower my reputation and significance when you do this. By radically sharing in an honest, connected way how we raise each other's reputation, significance, and also what we might be doing unconsciously, wrong, off. We might be missing things, or we just might not even be tuned in because we don't even know how we're lowering our teammates' reputations and significance. By having it shared openly, magic happens. People start to see, wow, I'm part of a greater whole. You know it here, but when you get it here in an embodied heart way, when you have your colleagues share with you how you can do better in helping them raise their significance, guess what happens? They go out of their way to raise your significance. They go out of their way to raise your reputation. And now the company culture turns from a me, to a we, to raise each other up, to arise together. That's how we go from siloing to camaraderie in a very rapid and very deep way. So that's one of the foundational practices we started off with. And Yen, I'd love you to share about your experience with that.
Yeah, that was a significant change prior to me and Satya, because we kind of came in very close to the same time into this company to work on it. That was a big part of what I saw was the desire to just protect myself and my reputation and to throw everybody else under the bus. That was like part of the culture. And through the work with Satya, we've been able to completely turn that around. And I will tell you that the numbers itself prove that, which is going from a 70-80% turnover year over year to now 20-30% over the last year. That is because of this idea and this concept of, you're part of the collective, you're part of the tribe, and your job is to be a part of that and contribute, not worry about what you're doing, but rather how to help others. And by being willing to help others and building that trust factor, that has now allowed everybody's reputation to rise as opposed to individual reputations to rise. And so that's been significant in our organization.
That's amazing. And, shifting into the culture, because you really can't build a large organization doing a lot of powerful things without people, right? And how, as a leader, has it made you more effective at leading people since you've made this shift in the culture?
Well, I think that as a leader, you're constantly struggling with a lot of personalities and a lot of people. And what Satyan's training and learning has allowed me to do is to focus into a lot more of why I lead the way I do, as opposed to all the different tactics that I might have. And so through this process of learning and being a transcendent leader, really the idea here is that now I am more in tune with people, as opposed to this idea of trying to control. And all the previous systems that I've learned was very much, well, you got to have measurements and you got to measure them and check their performance, et cetera. And performance is only one of two factors here. The other part is truly fit and culture and value system. And so over time, what this has allowed us to do is to build that value system along with the measurements of performance and putting those two together.
Amazing. And can you give us another action step or an exercise, or what's something that the viewer can watch and take away from this conversation? What can they implement in their culture, in their organization today?
Well, I think I wish it was just one thing. That would be too easy, I guess. But really, it's a series of thought processes, right? First, Satya, what he does is he first helps us identify, why do we exist as a company? What is our vision and our mission, and how do we hone that down so that everybody can rally around that? And then from there we have to build upon it, right? I would say if there was any tool to start off with, that's the first piece that you have to start with. And I've read books about this, and I've seen different authors talk about the power of why, et cetera. But what Satya is bringing is not just the power of why do you exist, but rather this all-encompassing of being, right? So it's not just these are the things you do, but rather this is how you be. And he said, moving from an organization from being me to we. I think now we've actually transcended from we to BBB.
Yes.
Wow.
And that is the power of what we're talking about here. So there isn't one thing, but that if I had to start somewhere, that's the first starting conversation that I would have.
That's great. And let's go deeper into that, Satyan. You know, a lot of people can say like, oh, I know my why, or I've done that exercise. But why is it important to really go deeper into the knowing of the why?
This is the furnace of existence. Your biggest why, your true reason for your company to be there is the furnace, is the fire, it's the heat, it's the energy. It's what brings everyone together, or doesn't. So usually when I go into organizations and I come in, I take a look at their vision, their mission statement, and it usually turns out to be a mission statement, something that's sitting on a wall that you don't get a chance to read. You walk by, it so becomes flat and fades away. And those type of missions, people spend thousands and hundreds of $1,000s and 6 months, a year to try to dial it in, when it can be so much more simpler than that. So when we came into this organization, I looked at the mission statement, and it was very traditional corporate mission type statement: to fulfill the corporate shareholders, to fulfill this, fulfill that. Okay, great, wonderful, all classic, dialed in. Well, when we came in, I said, we need to tear this apart, because it's not galvanizing the whole team. It's not bringing the humans, the heart, the being. It's not bringing their soul to the table. And in this day and age, fulfillment from within is not, how can I say, a luxury for business leaders. Transcendent business leaders, they recognize in this day and age, inner fulfillment, having some purpose, some vision that's higher than ourselves, higher than just profit, higher than just the happiness and the success of our company, but that contributes to humanity, that contributes in some way. It doesn't have to be earth-shattering, even a little way, to help people's lives move forward. When people can get that their companies are around that, it starts to open the heart. It starts to have people think outside of me, we, and go into the be space. Because to be who you need to be for a greater good, then there has to be a vision, a mission that pulls us, that awakens us, that draws us, that elicits in us to look up and not just look in my pocket, or just look at my day-to-day or my week-to-week happiness. So what we did with this company is we came up with a very powerful, with Kasara, we came up with a very powerful mission. And if you wouldn't mind sharing what that is.
No, not at all. So as Satya is right, when we first started, it was very long and convoluted vision statement. Now it's just very simple: better homes for better lives.
Wow.
Better homes for better lives. And since it's a real estate organization with multiple arms of real estate, the essence is that the whole team now will continue to aim and open up and foster this desire to have their homes be better, so that their tenants are having better lives. And when tenants are having better lives, even if you're in the accounting department and you're far removed from the ground floor of the business, still in your heart, you know that you're making a difference in some way. So this is the key: to engage the human heart, care, and to have care in an organization. The organization needs to care about something that's bigger than itself. And I feel that that is one of the most crucial foundational pieces in all transcendent business. Moving forward, it's a must. It's not a luxury, that we aim for the highest.
Well, and this is a very different approach to doing business, you know, coming from the culture that, oh, well, you're just supposed to be happy to even have a job. And, you know, that kind of mentality of don't, you know, expect to have any fulfillment, just work, 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 work until you can't work anymore. But you're seeing firsthand, Yuen, I mean, the real stats of going from 70 to 80% turnover to now 20 to 30%. I mean, that's a huge significance. And, you know, if you think about the amount of money and resources that go into not just, you know, finding those new people, but also training them, and your time as a leader. I mean, would you say that this has been a valuable investment?
Oh my gosh. It's invaluable, actually,
Yeah.
not just valuable, it's invaluable. There's no price, it's priceless. To have an organization where the people are now contributing the best of themselves and a part of something, and they know that they might not even get paid as much as the market. So oftentimes we're not paying at higher market rates in order to attract the talent. We're unable to. We're still a small company. But what you find is these people now are a part of something bigger. And in all the conversations that I've had, they said, you know, it's very rare to have a company that you work for not only care about growth in terms of profits, but cares about me as a person and my own personal growth. And that's what's starting to transcend, right? That's why people are not leaving, right? And the people that have been left, it was more from our decision, not theirs, because they weren't the right fit. They weren't part of the right culture fit. And now we're building a culture where the people that come in, they're going to stay. I fully expect them to stay, for years and years. Maybe some of them are career people forever. Maybe some of them are not because they need more growth and stepping stone, but they have a home, which is all part of our mission as well too, which is a better home for better lives, right? So that also transcends not only to the apartment communities that we serve, but also to the company itself, which is if we provide a better home for them at the company level, they're gonna have better lives as well too. So this mission statement is really transcending the whole thought process of everything that we do and why we exist as a company. And we have that to always go back to so that the, the I would say that the results speak for themselves.
That's amazing. Do you want to
I,
say
I
anything?
wanted to add to this
Yeah.
piece, the simplicity of the mission is 5 words: better homes for better lives. Anyone can remember this. When one reads this, feels this, it evokes a sense of yes, a sense of I can be part of this, and a sense of what I am doing in my day-to-day tasks will contribute to this. That feeling is very valuable because feeling is is camaraderie. Ultimately, company culture is how good does it feel to be in this space? How evoked am I to give the best of myself to my team, my organization, to the mission? And to do that when there is a vision and a mission that evokes this deepest why and a higher why, that's also simple, that can be said flowing off the tongue. This is what I believe is another part of transcendent leadership, is to come up with, to take the time to dial in a vision and a mission that is simple, powerful, like a rocket ship, and at the same time evokes the human spirit.
Wow, it's amazing. So, Yen, would you say that a lot of people, business owners or leaders, they think that they're too distracted, or, there's not enough time deal with the culture or the back of the house, and it just kind of always seems like something else is more urgent, more important, like bringing in revenue, bringing in investors, satisfying your customers. But have you found that with your attention to the culture and back of the house and everything that's going on behind the curtain has made your efforts in acquiring business, acquiring new investments, bringing in more tenants, has that made it more effective?
Well, it's one of those where if you don't focus on this and you don't fix this and you don't start at the right place, you'll have a very long and painful death. uh, you know, doing business the way of profiteering only, no soul to what you're doing, constant turnover, people hate being there, the product is half baked. All of those things just lead to a slow death of a business. And so to the entrepreneur, to the business owner that says, hey, I'm too busy, I gotta make payroll, I gotta do this, and they don't focus on something as important as this, then they're just slowly dying anyway. And I would say, well, then what's the point, right? If you want to grow, And if you want to transcend and be able to take something and actually grow it to a certain level, then this is a must. There is no debate of do you do or do you not do, right? You have to do it. Now, if you're okay kind of feeling like you're slowly poisoning yourself forever and slowly dying of an ugly death, then sure, don't do this. Just keep it as it is. Don't transcend. I'll be there to transcend my company and kick your butt at it. That's okay. I'm very okay with that, right? I understand there's competition here, right? But in all truthfulness, this is the starting point, and it has to get done. And if it doesn't, then yes, truthfully, you're dying instead of growing, which is not a good place for any business.
Wonderful. Well, we actually have a question that came in. So we want to know, this question came in. So what do you do with the current employees that are already there who may not be open to new cultural changes? Great question.
That's a great question. And I will tell you that when we first started on this journey, we had a lot of attrition, more than even normal from previous. So we had to rebuild. So in our organization, I would say probably about 30% of the people just didn't vibe to the culture, didn't believe in it, didn't trust that that was the direction that we were going to go. What's interesting about that is I would say is on those people, it wasn't that they weren't performing. So most people think, well, we let them go because they weren't performing. That was not the case. The people we let go were actually some of the high performers, but they didn't believe in the culture that we were trying to build. And so we had to let them go and help them understand that this is the direction that we're going. And for everybody else, either they were on board or they were not on board, right? And we check that even today, right? So one of the things that we do is even before we bring somebody into our organization, we actually do a core values interview, which is an hour-long interview with somebody that's not even going to be in the department or the core competence that they're going to do. These people don't even fully understand what they're going to do for the organization because they're not even in that department. But they will actually do an interview with these people just to see what their core value system is. Who are we getting? And is this person going to be a good likely fit to our culture?
Wow, that's brilliant. And Satyan, would you like to answer that question as well?
You know, in organization, when new change comes in, there's always people who are going to resist change, don't like change. The status quo is the way they want it. The status quo is the way it should be. And any type of bringing in new ideas, philosophies, going deeper, awakening a higher level mission and vision, if that is pushing people out the door they're not liking, those people are not meant to be with you. That's the key. You can bless their journey. You can give gratitude towards them. You can thank them for all their contribution internally, externally, validate them. And by putting the standards, here's our vision and our mission. It's not, I am the vision and mission. Here's our vision and mission. Does this fit you? Is this congruent with you? Does this inspire you? If it does, please, all of you, come with me. Come with us this way. If it doesn't, if this is not jiving with you, if it doesn't feel aligned, if it's not inspiring you, then please, we want to thank you for your work, but we're going to encourage you to find what's next for you on your journey. Our job as a transcendent leader is to find the top individuals and put them in the top places so that they're working together. 5, 10, 20 high-level individuals, high performers. You can have 100 high performers, as Yuen was shared, but if they're not coordinated, if they're not connected, if they're not in affinity and congruence and coherence, then it doesn't matter. You'll have business growth, you'll have success, but you'll still have a lot of interference patterns in the company. You remove all of that, you get the top 10, you put them in the best place, they'll achieve far more than 100 half-assed individuals in the organization. To do that, we need to cultivate as a leader within ourselves the principle of tolerance. What will we tolerate in our organization? And be clear. So one of the exercises that we do with all the leadership teams is we sit down. What do we tolerate? Well, I will tolerate this. We'll tolerate that. What do we not tolerate? What will we not tolerate at all whatsoever? And we flush that out. And once you've done that, it's your stand, it's your claim. I'm open to this. In our company, we tolerate, we invite, we edify, we appreciate this, whatever these principles are. And we don't tolerate this, whatever those are, whatever it is, whatever comes up from the leadership team. And then by having that and being very clear on that and being honoring what you actually will and will not have and tolerate in your organization, that changes the energy. It takes it from a sluggish performance and starts getting it into higher levels of performance. If you look at the top cars as an example, Yen and I, we both love German cars. German cars have very low tolerances in their engineering, meaning when you shut the door, it has a very nice sound. A less expensive car might have higher tolerances, like they allow more variance in millimeters, but the more precise the company is, the more higher level quality is, we lower the tolerances. And so dialing in the tolerances individually, dialing in your tolerance for who you accept, who you foster in your organization is paramount, because that tolerance at first may seem hard or harsh or excessively discerning, but once that cleansing of the organization has happened, and now you're attracting and you have top players who are now implementing these transcendent culture values, then it's unstoppable. Literally 10x, 100x, anything is achievable. Anything truly is achievable, okay, with that level of dialing.
That's amazing, which is what we are witnessing with Yuen and his organization. It just continues to grow and accelerate. And I'm interested, Yuen, hearing this shift and now having a higher level of tolerance. Did you have to really find that and stay in integrity within your own self in order for it to spread out to your organization? And were you ever scared or challenged by that belief system that you have to hold this level of integrity within your own self before you could share it with others?
Yeah, that's definitely a tough part of it, right? So one of the questions I asked myself was, could I hold myself to these standards? And could I be, because it's not just transcendence, it's also leadership, right? So it's transcendent leader. And when you think about the transcendence, people can transcend on their own without you. But it's a lot better when there's leadership that can also help you along that journey, right? Which is why we work with Satyen, right? Because he's our transcendent leader, which allows me to be a transcendent leader for others, and then they can be transcendent leaders for others. And that's what it takes. Are we perfect? No, absolutely not, right? So we can't come in day one expecting that I'm going to be the perfect transcendent leader. No, we still have learning to go through. And what you have to decide on is, will you buy in? And people call it, are you going to drink the Kool-Aid? Are you going to, be a team player? There's all kinds of different phrases for it. But truthfully, as the leader, you have to say, am I going to buy into this? And will I let go? Will I open up and let go and let this work through me? And if you're not at that point, then this is going to be a very challenging exercise. You're going to be battling yourself through that process. But if you're at a point where you say, you know what? I need that. I need the universe to come behind me and push me, give me, the wind instead of headwind, give me the wind behind me. Then that's what we're really talking about here. And you as a person, as the leader, the leader of the organization, has to make that decision of, am I at a point where this is truly the direction that I want to go? And am I willing to open up? Because there's a lot of opening to this, to dig deep and see yourself in a way that maybe you don't like all the time. I think of some of the exercises that we've worked through, and when you get to the conclusion, you're like, crap, that is me, and I don't like that. Now I got to change, right? And so that's all part of that process. But it is a process. It is not a, take the red pill, the blue pill, and everything's fine. It is definitely a process. And every day I have to consistently remind myself of the things that I have to do and things I have to think about, and where am I getting gummed up, and how do I then take some of these learnings and become a transcendent leader.
Amazing. Well, you described that so well, and thank you for sharing and being vulnerable about your own path of self-discovery. And, to the leader, because we all hit those areas where we're stuck, and, we realize, okay, for me to get to the next level, I have to let go. I have to do something differently. And so I have one question to ask you. Is it worth it?
Well, it depends on how you measure it. I would say a couple of measurements for me to decide whether or not it's worth it. One is obviously the success of the company and the numbers that we're driving towards, and those numbers obviously prove that this works, right? But I will tell you the bigger measurement actually is who I am and what I am when I'm around my family and the people that I love, my friends and family. And through this process, I've actually had comments of people saying to me, not even in work environment, but in a social environment or family environment, they said, "Man, you look more relaxed. You look like everything is okay." And I said, "Well, I joke around. I said, well, I got to go raise $50 million, but yeah, no big deal, right? No pressure." But at the same time, you start transforming even to a point where visually people see it. And that has been validation for the worth of the work that we do.
That's so beautiful. And Satyan, I would love to ask you the same question. I'm sure you've been on many a journey yourself where you've hit a limitation and you think, oh, this is it for me. I've reached my end. I can't go to the next level. So how do you embrace that surrender?
In my journey of opening businesses and growing businesses and supporting other leaders to grow their businesses and expand as individuals, there's always plateaus. Coming from a martial art background myself, we have different belts. And in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that I'm studying now, there's a white belt, and then there's 4 stripes, and then there's a blue belt and 4 stripes, and then there's a purple belt and 4 stripes, and then there's a brown belt and 4 stripes, and then you earn your black belt. And then once you've earned your black belt, you can continue for years to come and get degrees of black belt. So I really feel, as Yuen was sharing, there's no arrival, but there's a willingness. We as transcendent leaders, one of the core values is growth, is the willingness to subject ourselves volitionally to growing ourselves as an individual, to creating a life, a personal life of greater equilibrium. So as you were sharing, Yuen, how your family and friends notice more calmer demeanor, they notice you physiologically, emotionally, a more relaxed man and father and husband and friend, as well as this is the same type of comments I get from your teammates. When I'm sitting with them alone, they really enjoy how calm you are, how clear you are. And this is a journey for myself. I used to be very erratic growing up in my business, very pulling out my hair, as you can see, and, putting out fires all the time and such, until I started recognizing these great Eastern wisdom traditions. They all speak about how our external reality is a mirror of the internal reality we're holding. So in other words, if I'm frowning and I'm full of stress and I'm looking at a mirror, the mirror will frown and show me stress. It's not going to show relaxation. And if I look at the mirror with a smile, with deep breathing, with a centeredness of demeanor, connected to my vision, my mission, and now I'm executing my daily tasks from that calm, centered place, then the mirror will reflect back the same. The difference between this real life mirror and a mirror that we use to groom is the time. This external mirror, the time it takes to reflect back is just longer, that's all. So we might not see an immediate frown when we frown, or a smile when we smile, or comments when we, but I guarantee you it is happening. There is a transmission of our essence, our demeanor, our vibration, our way of being that is entering reality. And reality, from my experience, forms around and mirrors and responds back to the internal state of transmission. The clarity of my mind, the clarity of my being gets reflected back. So whenever I'm at a plateau, Whenever I feel there's things stuck, I used to look at outside and try to figure out task-wise, try to figure out what's wrong in the system. Now the default is what is misaligned inside myself? Where do I have negative charges, fears, perhaps frustrations that I've repressed, that I'm working over so that I can just get the task done? Now I aim to reconfigure and clear and come to daily alignment within myself. And then just the way I speak then affects and brings alignment into my teams. If they hear me speaking calmly from a depth of my being with a lightness and a freshness and a joy and an embracing mindset and attitude, then they too get affected by that and carrying it forward. So for me, any plateau, business or personal, always points back to myself. When I was a younger man, I didn't want to know that. I would always want to look at it outside. But now with some years of experience, we have experience. And we also have very powerful tools and principles and processes to deal with when we're out of alignment in ourselves and in our teams, so we can come rapidly and deeply back rather than wallow in stress and struggle and putting out fires. So this is the new way of doing things. The new way, the transcendent leadership way, path, is recognizing that you are a huge influence, not just your brilliance, not just your degrees, not just your business mastery, but your complete way of being. So that's why the emphasis on us being transcendent leaders, transcending our past limitations, is so valuable in this day and age where transcendence is what's being called for. It's what's emerging in business. It's what's arising that we must meet and face, so that we recognize growth, personal growth is also business growth. They're not separate.
Gosh, that was gorgeous. And Yuen, to really wrap all of this up, I know we could continue going on and on forever because there is so much to share. But why do you feel like transcendent leadership is the key? You know, why have you invested these last 2 years in practicing, learning, and taking on this new paradigm? And what is your vision for where transcendent leadership is going?
Yeah, you know, when you think about transcendence and just the word itself, it means going to a level that is even beyond your physical level, right? And in business, you know, the word is growth. That's the way we say it in business. But the reality is we're transcending as well. And what we're looking for and why it's so important is that we're looking for that ability to continue to grow, right? And we equate that to count it by net profit. That's the ultimate line that we look at to say, did we actually do it? But the reality is that transcendence of growth of what we're trying to accomplish is inherent in all businesses, and why we continue to invest in that thought process and our ability to continue that. Because that bottom line, if you're focused on that, then you miss everything else that's happening. And so that transcendence thought process is, and why we like it so much, is that it helps us think of the bigger picture first, right? And then we can hone in onto the details of how it's going to work and what's going to happen. And that's why we're going to continue to invest in transcendent leadership throughout the entire organization. We're going to have Satyen come to literally every city that we're in all 4 major cities in Texas, to continue that thought process and continue to help our people grow from that perspective. The continuation of that and why we continue, I think, is self-evident. I think it'd be hard to argue that if we didn't do this, where we would be instead. We might be dead, or at least a slow growth towards death. And so, I think that ultimately answers the question of why we do it and why we continue to invest in it.
That's amazing. Wow. Well, this has been an incredible interview. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective, your brilliance, and these distinctions of going from running multiple businesses that have been successful to now the transcendent leader. You are the walking image of peace and calm and power, and it is such an honor to know you. Thank you so much for being here with us, Yuen.
Thank you both. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Satyen, as always, so wonderful to co-create with you. Would you like to say anything to conclude this episode?
You know, we've shared so much of the how and the way of being, and I want to conclude with this really nudge and push and pinch to say and let you know that as a leader, if you're a leader and you're considering bringing in these principles, have the courage to do it. Don't sit on the fence. This is a very crucial time, pivotal time in business history where we can make greater strides, more than we can imagine, and we can pull our teams along with us. So I'm going to encourage everyone here to not just sit back and listen from a passive standpoint, but to draw the wisdoms, the insights, the learnings from these sharings and implement something today so that you can experience growth starting today. And that one thing could be to look for how can you raise your teammates' significance and reputation, and to do that earnestly from your heart.
It's so powerful. Right. All of this is just theory until we put it into practice and you get to see the results of this new way of being and leading. Well, thank you, Satyen, for your empowering message. Thank you for the work that you're doing on the planet. And thank you for watching. Thanks for being a part of this journey. We love hearing your feedback, your comments. We're all in this together. And my name is Andrea Albright. We'll see you next time on Transcendent Leader. Until then, here's to your transcendence.
Thank you. Thank you.